But first of all, today, it's a great pleasure to welcome our first guest. It is a debut visit to Luck on Sunday. I feel it's not before time because over the last few seasons, both in Ireland and here at the big festivals, his ability in the saddle and his personality out of it have lit up the jumping firmament.
They're not getting to Kimboy in the Paddy Power Irish Gold Cup. Thanks all, Kimboy.
Will Tom and Danny Mullins, a very good horse.
Solness, another big success.
Tornado flyer wins for Danny Mullins. Is out in front. He's a brilliant winner, a back-to-back winner of the Stayers Hurdle.
Here he is, Danny Mullins, joining us. And good morning, Danny. I just had to clarify to everyone it was you, because as you walked in this morning to our green room, I think there was a sharp intake of breath from all. It's quite spectacular.
Yeah, definitely. I was with the hairdresser yesterday, so yeah.
No. You weren't.
Something different, but you know, while the hair is there and good, yeah, why not?
I know. I'm feeling the pain when you say that. So tell me, what's inspired this?
Just, I suppose, because I can. I'm a big Lewis Hamilton and Jimmy Butler fan.
Are you?
And you know, maybe it's something that really shocks horse racing, but maybe are we a bit stone age in horse racing at times where if Lewis Hamilton is in the Formula One, Jimmy Butler at the basketball is doing something like this, it doesn't really cause that much of a stir, where maybe horse racing needs a little shake-up at times. I'm going to be the one who looks like a moron if I don't go out and ride winners in Galway this week, but you know, big pressure week, and give it a go. Yeah, I had a winner last year for my mother when I got a slightly more reformed hairstyle done. So while she was quite shocked when she seen me, she said, you produced it last year, make sure it happens again this year.
Would she enjoy something like this?
No, I think her initial reaction was no, what have you done? But, you know, she's eventually come around to being a little bit more supportive.
And as you say, you've got to feel you express yourself. And that's you, isn't it? That's the way you go about life. You want to express yourself.
That's it. You know, you have a go. And, you know, once you're putting in the hard work and getting the results, what you do off the track is your own business. And while I've probably upset plenty, I've offended nobody. So, yeah, we'll kick on.
And is that the way you live your life? Try and offend nobody, but do it your own way?
That's it. I suppose a few people have said I'm a little bit of a maverick. I run to my own beat, and yeah, once I'm enjoying it, and you know, nobody is being offended along the way. Yeah, I'll try keep it all going. I've enjoyed the last few years. If I can do that for a bit longer, I'll be okay.
Was there ever a time you didn't enjoy it?
Not really. I suppose, you know, being a jockey, you're living the dream, and you're just hoping that you won't wake up. When you're less successful, you're wondering, what do I need to do? I never really panic, but you know, I suppose it's like looking at Willie Mullins changing or training horses. If something's not working, you look at areas you need to change, how you can get ahead, you knuckle down, you go again.
And was there ever any doubt from when you were a tiny child that this is what you were going to do?
No, I don't think so. You know, my brother growing up would have ridden horses or ponies as well, and I think at about 10 or 12 he decided he didn't want to do it. So it was never pressure from, you know, my mother or father. And once I enjoyed it, I loved, you know, watching all the heroes back then, you know, the Charlie Swans back in the day, Ruby, Barry Gertie, all the lads were all my heroes growing up, and I always wanted to try and be somewhat as successful as them.
And there's a pretty sharp intellect running through your family. Were you a pretty good kid at school?
What did the school report probably said? Plenty of ability. In racing terms, needs blinkers.
A shade distracted, you might say.
A little bit distracted, you know. When I was going out to get on my pony, in the evening after school or the odd morning before school, I was probably a little bit more focused in that area and, you know, do what you're good at. So that's a good lesson in life.
But you've obviously got a good range of interests. You're not one-dimensional. You know, you've got context. We were talking a few moments ago. What were the things that were really interesting you when you were growing up?
I suppose when I was younger, it was, you know, just running around, having fun with your friends in school and the normal stuff, whether it be hurling, football. But, you know, once I really started to focus on my ponies, horses, that's really where I became a little bit one-dimensional for a few years to maybe hone my craft in that area. And as I've, you know, progressed through life, I've, you know, had more of my interest, and probably my biggest interest outside of horse racing would be Formula One. And, you know, you just take in what you can apart from that. I love all sporting events at the highest level, but, you know, Formula One is probably the one that captures me.
So what do you love about it? What gets you going about F1?
It's speed, you know, the endurance, how the tactics of it as well, where most people turn on the Formula One and they think it's just cars driving around the circuit. But when you get deeper into the tactics, how they sell that to the public so well is probably an area horse racing can learn from as well. Formula One has become, you know, one of the most widely watched sports in the world, where if horse racing can, in their own way, hone that, I think we can do a lot more for our own sport.
How do you think we might do that?
I don't know. I suppose, you know, like I've played a part in the Full Gallop documentary last year, and again this year. I think that brings us somewhat more behind the scenes. I think Ruby's analysis of racing has been fantastic. You know,
taking it to another.
He does, level. And he knows what he's saying as well. Whether, you know, he's given me plenty of credit for a good ride. He's said I've given one an awful ride, and the harsh reality is he's right all of the time. You know, as a jockey, you just make those decisions. But maybe you know, jockeys don't like it when analysts really call it as they see it, and maybe are we guilty of sitting on the fence in racing sometimes? Well, I suppose I've gone the other side of the fence, can we say?
But has that helped you? Has that inner confidence helped your riding? Or is that a mirage?
I think so. You know, in recent years, I'm probably the one who's done a lot more social media through my association with Tote, and that's, you know, opened me up to even more so not being afraid to get it wrong.
Yeah. And were you always gregarious like you are now?
Pretty
or
much.
Has this come out as you've got older?
I suppose it's come out a little bit more as I've got older, and, you know, I'm that little bit more settled now, where, you know, when you're younger you're always a bit wilder. Jim Bolger was a great master as an apprentice, and he tried to carve me back in the day, and I'm not sure if he'd applaud the hairstyle now, but, you know, I'll still see him next week at the Hurling for Cancer as well.
And you'll see him plenty of times in the races in Galway as well, won't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your time with Jim Bolger. It sounds to a lot of us like oil meeting water, but clearly there's a great mutual affection between you.
Definitely. You know, I went up there as a wild teenager. I was only 15 on my summer holidays. I was going up for 2 weeks, and I left 3.5 years later. It was a great time. Myself and Martin Harley were best buddies up there during our apprenticeship together, and to see what he's gone on to do as well has made me proud of him. And at different times we've had ups and downs in our career, where when I was struggling starting off as a jump jockey, he was riding, you know, Prix de Cadran winners, Royal Ascot winners. Then he had a quiet time in England. I got going and riding Grade 1 winners over jumps, and in the recent seasons to see him at the highest level now in Australia, we chat to each other regularly, and I had dinner with him when he was home last week. So,
and he had a horrific accident, didn't he, that he came back from?
It's hard to believe that he's broke his neck more times than I have. As a flat jockey, he is, and he just keeps coming back. And that's probably the mental resilience that Jim Bolger instills in us as young lads, and it really pays off later in your career.
So actually, for all the frivolity as we might see it, do you think some of your steel, some of your ability to withstand some of the disappointments comes from Jim?
I definitely think so. He definitely shaped me as a human being, and it's definitely stood to me through some of the quieter times as a jockey, and that's going to come where, as I moved on as a jump jockey, I think Willie Mullins and, his real sharp tactical and his analysis of everything has brought me to a new level as a jockey. But, in the early days, Jim definitely made me a better human.
Your parents clearly have had a big role to play, and they both trained Tony and Mags. Tell me a little bit about each of them as characters. Obviously, we see more of Tony than we do of Mags, but they're both very successful in their own right. Yeah,
definitely. My mother, Mags, has the most unbelievable work ethic, and I like to think I've picked up plenty of that from her. She runs a smaller operation trying to produce and sell jumpers, but the odd time she might pop up and beat me in Cheltenham or something like that. Where Tony, both of them are actually champion lady rider and champion jockey, which leaves my pedigree a little bit short, but there's time for that yet. Tony, he's done everything as a jockey. He's been equally successful as a trainer. Small national hunt team is difficult to run in these times, but he's had his Cheltenham winners, Group 1 winners on the flat, and he's starting to get into a few horses again on smaller numbers, but probably should have ridden him a winner in Wexford the other evening, and that'll win for him soon again. So plenty of success to be had from both.
So if you get this work ethic off your mum, what do you get from your dad?
I think I could say the creativity comes from my dad.
Just the outside-the-box thinking, should we put it? Is that the kind of diplomatic way of putting it?
Probably, and maybe that's an overall Mullins thing, think outside the box and, don't be afraid to have a go and do what's working well and stick with it. Which
Mullins are you most similar to, do you think?
Ruby walked into the tack room one morning, myself, Emmett, Patrick and David were standing there, and he just summarised it well, and he says, you're a fair representation of your fathers. So, yeah, I think Tony definitely hits the nail on the head for me.
OK, and so when you sort of transitioned from your early career to being this part of what is now this extraordinary Willie Mullins machine, which is different even to what it was when you first started riding for him, where did you feel you would land up?
I didn't really know. As a teenager, I rode my second winner for Jim Bolger in the Curragh, carrying 7 stone 8, claiming 10 off 8-4. I thought I was destined to be a flat jockey. So then as I got taller and heavier, even though I'd come from a jumping background, I probably hadn't done much schooling, and it was all show jumping back in the day. So I was pretty awful as a jump jockey starting out, and I just had to knuckle down and try and make a go of it, make myself better. And, when I went down to Willie in those early years, I think Willie's yard stopped at the pink and purple barn. There was probably 100, maybe less, and it's really grown during the time there. And thankfully, I've brought my riding ability to match what I can get from Willie's stable. He's so good at having so many horses and great owners that it makes Paul Townend's life now very difficult, where when Paul was behind Ruby, there were less horses and less opportunities for him. So even now, for me, with all the other good riders in there, there's loads of lads chomping at the bit. I can still harvest a few big winners each year.
Does it suit you better, that? Or would you just rather be number one, wearing the crown and riding all the best horses?
I definitely love to wear the crown and ride all the best horses, but is there another job, in racing where you're probably not tied down all the time, so you can get plenty of big spare rides and still regularly ride Grade 1 winners through the year? I was lucky enough this year when JJ Slevin was injured, I had a good association with Joseph O'Brien, and that reaped plenty of reward, Grade 1 success, and I have that freedom to do that. But I'd still love to be riding all of Willie's horses. I don't think I'm going to bump off Paul anytime soon.
No, and I suppose that's the question, isn't it? Do you ever think about, right, can I outlast him in the saddle, and therefore have my years of plenty at Closutton as the number one? Is that something that preoccupies you or not?
I'd love to see Paul ride off into the sunset, but we're a similar age, so I'd imagine he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But
what is it, like a couple of years between you?
I think is there maybe 18 months is all.
Yeah, is that all there is?
We would have ridden on the pony racing circuit together, so we came through, and he maybe went jumping earlier than me. I had my few years on the flat, but we've pretty much grown up in the game together.
Okay. You mentioned your mum would occasionally beat you, and that happened infamously at the festival a few years ago when she trained Martello Tower, and you were riding a second or third string for Willie Mullins called Millshorn in the Albert Bartlett. You hadn't ridden a Cheltenham Festival winner at that point. I think for her it would have been almost more difficult than it was for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, she came back into the winners' enclosure, and she was just looking for me to see how I was. Probably I stole it from her enjoying it somewhat, but I was just as proud of her, and you have that youthful bit of naivety where I just thought these Cheltenham winners had come. I'm not worried about getting beat. I've given this fella a great ride at 33-1. He's nearly pulled it off. I thought all the way down the straight. I got a good jump at the last. I'm away here again. And Martello Tower just came and chinned me. And I suppose the extra bit of it was I'd previously had the job for Barry Connell, who was very good to give me an opportunity in the early years. But Adrian Heskin was my replacement in that job as well. But, it didn't stop me from crossing the line and giving him a pat on the back. It was a big moment for him as well. So, jealousy probably gets you nowhere in this game. Just work on your own, paddle your own canoe and keep going.
And there was a silver lining to this cloud, wasn't there?
There was.
Quite a significant silver lining.
A significant one, yeah. Myself and my mother had the full brother at home. We had the mare as well, so that one was sold later that year. And he, after Martello winning, he was worth a bit more. But I think my percentage of the prize money would have done me a bit better than the bank account on the day.
Yeah, if there's any conspiracy theorists out there, it's probably worth just going back and reviewing that finish. I think fair to say the kitchen sink and everything else went at Millshorn, didn't he?
Kitchen sink, the living room and everything went at him, but we just got touched off on the day.
And I was talking about, wanting this, land of plenty where you ride all these great Grade 1 horses. In essence, you kind of have it because of the dominance of Willie. Why do you think Closutton 10 years ago, even as dominant as it was then, is so different from what we see now? How has he managed to consolidate his power base so well?
I think probably the size and the numbers, which was brought about by Gordon Elliott really laying an assault on the Trainers' Championship with numbers. And, during the years when Gigginstown had left, Willie was under serious pressure to maintain that, and it just pushed Willie to a new level to really expand the operation. Everybody knew Willie's ability, that they had the confidence in him. He's a great people person, and he's able to manage all the owners, and they want to put the horses with him to do the best they can. His Cheltenham results, speak for themselves. He's the king over there, and once he has the team as well with Patrick, David Casey, Ruby's not there as much anymore, but all the way down through it where Jackie is helping run behind the scenes, Dick Dowling in the yard. There's a most fantastic pyramid in Willie's where Willie's at the top, but there's so much more support underneath feeding up, and it maintains what most people can only do with a small operation. He's able to run it to the same standard with 200 plus horses.
What does it say about him that he was probably a man at the time, say in his late 50s, early 60s, a few years ago, where he's already champion trainer multiple times. He's already breaking records at the Cheltenham Festival. He's already winning everything that you need to win, pretty much. And then he goes out and endeavours harder to push it to another level still. What does that say for him? What does it say about his personality and his character? He's
just got unbelievable hunger, and I've said it before, where Willie always says in sport you're never on a level plateau. You're either going up or down, and you just have to have that hunger where you want to keep going up. And I think, well, I hope, for my sake anyway, that he wants to do it for plenty more, and there's no sign of him stopping it anytime soon.
Grand National this year, him training winner, Patrick riding winner. For most people, that's it. You know, you've bred the jockey, you've trained the winner, you do it together. It's the Grand National, which means so much to him. You sort of wonder how you then keep pushing to the next level still. That's it. But you know, that day where you see, it's probably the only time Willie left an emotional response to a race. You know, for his son Patrick, as an amateur, has a very limited chance to ride in the Grand National with weights, and he's given Nick Rocket an unbelievable ride to go and do it. Has to be probably one of the pinnacles for Willie personally. That was unbelievable. And the only time, as you say, he really was unable to articulate what he was feeling, because the feeling was so deep. You and Patrick clearly get on well, but you're in part now defined by that Limerick race where Fahine beat you on Il Était Temps. Look what he's gone on to do since. How do you look back on that now? Yeah, I think it's just one of those races where an opportunity presents itself, and you know, it made for great viewing because it's myself and Patrick, we're on the same team. But if Patrick was out there and he had an opportunity to beat me, he's going to go out and do the same. Like, we get on very well, but we both have an unbelievable hunger to win. And, you know, if opportunities present ourselves in a race, we're not going to be kind to each other, and we're going to have a go. You know, I'm sure, you know, if something had gone wrong, Willie would kill me, and that's the way Willie has to run his operation as well. And when I'm going out to ride for him, I want to do the best job I can, and I'll have a go as well. And he had a go after the line, as we remember. Do you think part of the enjoyment we all got out of this little mini drama was the fact that both of you were prepared to come out and give it a bit of welly afterwards as well? You weren't just hiding away in the weighing room saying, no, it's none of your business. You kind of played the game. Yeah, you know, that's it. Patrick had his word, and I took them on the chin. You know, it's... Did you say much back? No, I think the only line I got back was, it's a grade 1. And then after that, there wasn't much room for me to get much else in. He is clearly an extraordinarily driven and determined member of your family as well. Is he just the natural successor? Do you think it will just seamlessly roll on? You'd imagine so, but it'll be something I'm sure Patrick will do, but I'd imagine he'll try put it off for as long as he can. He's in a great position now where he's still riding at the best of his ability. He has loads of horses there he can throw his hand to, and if it becomes a situation where he's running the training operation, well, something's got to give. You know, you can have anything you want in life as long as you're willing to sacrifice everything else. So, you know, I think he's definitely got the ability and the know-how to run the operation, but I'd imagine he'll enjoy what he's doing for a little bit longer on the track. Almost anywhere we began, it strikes me that, you know, you describe yourself as a bit of a maverick. What you're not is overly reverential, either to the game nor to the people you're working for, even though you primarily work for the greatest trainer of our generation. How important do you think that is in asserting the value of jockeys as sportsmen, that we're no longer in the feudal system? Yeah, no, I suppose different things happen. We're a smaller percentage on the track, jockeys, in what is, you know, a winner of a race. We play our part. We're the ones who have to deal with the pressure, but, you know, everything else comes from the back team as well, and there's so much more that goes into
a horse crossing the line in front rather than just the jockey on his back. You know, I'm quite happy to deal with the pressure and have a go on the day, but I know my percentage is quite small in that victory, and you know, it's everybody else that's put in the work before then.